IDW Sonic Comic Issue 6. Already I started out with barely any hype because the ending of last issue already told me the premise of this one, so I already know it's going to frustrate me the whole story. Shadow has super speed. Realistically, he would have spin-dashed Eggman in half the second he saw him if he came here to do that. Not waited around on the roof and then revealed his presence to Sonic and caused him to try to stop him. Sonic's the only one who's as fast as him and could try to go fight him off, but Shadow has Chaos Control. So logically he'd just warp away anyone who'd oppose him. But instead the entire story is going to happen with a flimsy excuse that he forgot he could use Chaos Control. Or somehow was too arrogant to think he should resort to the only smart decision. The only decision. There's no way the story could be remotely logical when Shadow has Chaos Control. Unless this comic doesn't have him have that. And it never had the guts to be any different from the games. So no. I know Shadow is capable of warping other people than himself without even making physical contact with them, because that's how he warped Rouge out of Prison Island and saved her in SC2. So he'd warp everyone here away and kill Eggman right now. He could warp Eggman so that he's telefragged with the ground and dead, and then fight Sonic for stress relief. So not even the excuse that he's gonna let Sonic fight him because he hates him and wants to prove his superiority by hitting him is gonna work, because that wouldn't stop him from killing Eggman. He wouldn't freeze Sonic in time to beat him up, because while it would be easy, Sonic wouldn't be consciously aware of it, so there'd be less satisfaction in hitting him. And it'd be too easy. People might snark they thought he had to freeze Sonic in time to have a chance. So Shadow might know that already and want to beat him at his own game by attacking him the Sonic way, where Sonic would be aware of the pain he'd get from it, and he apparently thinks getting hit himself is going to be worth it. As for why Shadow would hate Sonic after he respected him in SC2's final battle, Shadow's jealous that Sonic gets to run around the world being the most respected hero of the planet while he's not, when he's more powerful than him. So of course he'd convince himself that he's more worthy of the respect. A lot of people would be jealous of Sonic, and Shadow's a teenager, so he's more emotional, especially since he never experienced a proper childhood, so he hasn't learned to control his temper yet and been taught what's immature. Shadow was at his best in SA2, we can all agree there. And that's when he was a villain. That's when he was such a dick that he wanted to destroy the world. So I don't see how him wanting to destroy merely one person on it was considered more edgy than it being omnicidal. But it does make sense for him to want this, so how can I not support him? I'm only frustrated because he won't be allowed to win, which is the only reason I'm wishing he never showed up here. Even the plot of Shadow the Hedgehog had better writing than this, because in the alternate ending where he wanted to kill Eggman, which is the precedent for him wanting to do this that justifies his decision instead of it being out of character, Shadow just immediately karate chopped Eggman to death right after he considered killing him. Of course nothing stopped him. But here, the writer won't have the guts to do that because he's too loyal to the games and scared of the wrath of the fanbase for it being dark and different. The other M comic was dark and different. But it's not official, so he thought he could get away with anything. It's a shame, because if the comic did go through with letting Shadow succeed, that would give this comic a unique identity for once, as the one Sonic continuity where Eggman isn't the main villain. And it would have avoided the Metal Virus arc, which is on the TV Tropes page for darkness-induced audience apathy. So clearly avoiding that would have been better. Any arc we'd get other than that would have probably been better. This is the problem with revealing the premise of the next issue before you even got to read it first. I haven't even read this issue yet, and already I've written paragraphs about how Force is going to be, and I know I'll end up right. That killed what little excitement I had for the story. The only reason I'm reading this is because I need to make a review of it. At least with all the other issues so far, I had some reasons to be excited to see them because I had no idea what story they'd have going into them. So I knew it was going to be, at least technically, a new experience. Also, the cover has Eggman threaten Sonic in the Eggmobile. It's pretty stupid to show that. It looks like it's completely spoiling the only twist of the story. I figured Eggman would stay in this town this issue and not go back to being evil until later. And look, even the title of the story is reformed in sarcastic quotation marks, so at least the writers, again, not even trying to hide that this is a waste of time plot point. Sonic stands in front of Eggman protectively and tells Shadow that this isn't what it looks like. Well, he did just shake Eggman's hand, and Eggman said he was going to build Eggman Land. And Sonic is known for being reckless and impulsive, and even kind of a dick. And Shadow's probably jealous of him, which would spur him on to want to think the worst of Sonic. Sonic doesn't even have a traumatic past like he does, so of course he'd be jealous of him. So it can make sense, but I never thought Shadow was thinking Sonic was gonna be evil, probably because Eggman was wearing a different pink outfit, and everyone around him was laughing and happy, not just Sonic. So 1, it's immediately obvious that Eggman is dressed in a more innocuous way, and therefore people think he's good now because he can wear this without raging. And 2, it's a lot less likely that way more people than just Sonic would want to join Eggman. He's saying this is not what it looks like, but what it looks like is Sonic thinks Eggman's good, not Sonic's evil. My point is, why the hell is Sonic even saying this and assuming Shadow's thinking the worst of him, instead of just saying that Eggman's helping out the town? That's what I thought he'd say. Shadow didn't even accuse Sonic yet. And again, Sonic's extremely lucky that Shadow's doing nothing at all while Sonic's saying this. So, I already explained how the plot would actually go. Lethally. What's going to be the course of events that'll try to justify the story not going the logical way? Maybe it'll make sense. Rouge tells Sonic to talk fast, implying that she's on Sonic's side for this one, but also knows that Shadow is stubborn, because she wouldn't be telling him to talk at all otherwise. Sonic tells Shadow that he's sure this isn't Eggman, while Shadow miraculously just walks. Shadow wouldn't walk, especially not at a time like this. Eggman says that Eggman just looks like him, and he's someone else. The story would have had a chance if Sonic had talked instead, and Sonic told Shadow, this is Eggman's twin brother. They're really estranged from each other. It's sad, this story could have made sense. I would actually not blame Shadow for believing Sonic there. Identical twins do exist, and Shadow's only experienced life for a few years if that, so he's naive and gullible, as Black Doom showed us. So he wouldn't think deeply about what Sonic said and have the time to question how, if Eggman has a twin, this is the first he's hearing about him. No, instead someone as untrustworthy as Eggman opens his mouth when he clearly shouldn't, which casts what he says into doubt right away. And the town hasn't already decided to lie to Eggman that he's his twin brother. So Sonic doesn't say that, and neither does anyone else. In fact, Sonic whispers to Shadow that Eggman is Eggman, and just lost his memory. First of all, again, he'd obviously be better off lying that he's Eggman's twin brother instead. Even saying that he's an alternate universe good Eggman would be a better idea. Eggman Nega is a thing, so if there's a worse Eggman, there could be a better Eggman. I want to blame Shadow for believing that. Even Sonic Boom has parallel universes. But no, Sonic doesn't think. Also, Shadow knows better than anyone that amnesia doesn't make you innocent and capable of evil. When he had amnesia, he worked for Black Doom to try to learn about his past from someone who actually claimed to know it, and ended up getting the White House destroyed by the Eclipse Cannon. So the last person who would buy the amnesiacs are innocent trope would be Shadow. And Shadow even says that amnesiacs aren't not dangerous. But he doesn't even say, I'm living proof of that, remember Black Doom? Instead he just looks cynical. Sonic is smart enough to agree with him, putting his hand on his shoulder to stop him after Shadow miraculously decided to try to walk again instead of taking off running and punching Eggman. Shadow gets away from Sonic's grip, somehow. I wish this comic was in motion so I know how, because you'd think his hand on his shoulder would have been holding him still just fine. Come on, Shadow, punch him. How has he not punched him yet? Sonic goes in front of Eggman, saying that Shadow's not listening. Sonic keeps doing that, and then grabs Shadow's wrist and runs away, dragging him behind him. In any other circumstance, the idea of Sonic trying to protect Eggman would make him look like a complete dumbass. And he has saved him multiple times in Archie, but at least here he has a point that he'd want him to keep doing good right now. And I do too. He thinks if he saves him, he'll keep helping the town for a long time. And if he doesn't save him, he won't get to do what he's going to do to help the town later. Somehow, instead of continuing to run away with Shadow, Sonic thinks it's a good idea to smack Shadow into the wall of the house. And he doesn't even do it with enough force that he could reasonably knock Shadow out from it. Because of course he wouldn't want to damage someone's house, let alone risk injuring Shadow. Why do this if you're gonna hold back anyways? I guess the reason Sonic didn't keep on running away with him as much as he could, and actually have a chance of getting him far enough away from Eggman, is that he figured Shadow would eventually stop him from this. Shadow could use Chaos Control to get away from Sonic's grip. And he's used it without an Emerald in the games before, and Sonic X. So that's not his excuse. Emerald or not, he still worked away from Eggman. Also, somehow this results in Shadow and Sonic running around instead of them punching each other while staying still. Why the hell would Shadow think running around would count as a fight? Why would he think this is satisfying as opposed to hitting Sonic? Also, Sonic's pretty lucky Shadow's jealousy of him isn't extreme enough to get him to kill him, because if Shadow really cared about killing Eggman, he'd just spin dash through Sonic to get to him. He'd punch Sonic and hit him into Eggman. He could have easily done that, there's no reason for him to go around him. But apparently he's still got enough compassion in his heart that Sonic standing in front of Eggman was in any way an effective measure. So he's not a total villain in this comic. He still values Sonic as a hero, clearly. So here's where the story completely falls apart in logic. I don't know why Shadow even let Sonic say all of that and pad the story out. And it's forced that Vector even considers trying to help Sonic out. He should have known from the start that he can't keep up with them. Espio says he could keep up. Oh, good. Does this mean that the writer remembers that Espio was a speed type in Sonic Heroes? That's the only way I'm saying this would make sense. Espio's pause tries to imply that he's just making up an excuse when he says he's recovering from fighting Badniks. Because he isn't hurt at all. He didn't get hurt. His real excuse is that he doesn't want Shadow to hurt him. No one has a chance against Shadow. It's a good thing Shadow's too sweet to use Chaos Control to warp Sonic's limbs away from him. Then Vector tries to pad out the story even more by telling Rouge off for bringing Shadow here, desperate to do something. I assumed the story would follow Sonic after this failed joke, but at least this way Rouge has a chance to explain herself. Shadow is already looking for Eggman himself. I could have assumed that, so that was pointless. Then Rouge reveals that she was the one who gave the Chaotix an anonymous tip. And by the time she supposedly helped Shadow find this place, Sonic was there as a countermeasure. Rouge isn't really on Shadow's side. You'd expect someone's friend to be on their side, but Rouge casually betrays Shadow at every chance she gets, even in the reboot. So seriously, I don't see how she counts as his friend. She's just his coworker. When can he actually rely on her? Like even in Sonic 06, wasn't she sent to get the scepter and then it broke anyways? Rouge had every reason to side with Shadow on his goal. She's a treasure hunter who's got an established past as a jewel thief in Sonic X. I'm pretty sure if she's not completely morally perfect to begin with, she shouldn't want Shadow to be prevented from killing the most dangerous person on the planet. I know stealing jewels is one thing and murder is another, but this is Eggman! Sonic darts ahead of Shadow, which could only make sense if Shadow wasn't going at full speed to begin with. But he was doing this to prove he could be faster than him, so he would have been running at full speed already. Why are they racing instead of hitting each other? Why would Shadow race him? The only reason he'd keep him around instead of warping Sonic away is so he could hit him. Shadow has no reason to kill some innocent trees here. And you'd think he'd just immediately catch up with Sonic because they're both just as fast. Then Sonic reminds Shadow and the audience about the good Eggman's done in the games that the hero should be grateful for, like in SA2. And Shadow the Hedgehog, where Eggman fought the alien invasion with the heroes. And without him, they wouldn't have lasted. There's no logical reason why Shadow would let Sonic say all of this though. He would have just frozen him in time if he doesn't want to punch him. So it doesn't matter how compelling Sonic's argument is, because there's no reason he'd have been able to say it all in the first place. I guess Sonic's point is that they need to keep Eggman around because he might be needed to protect them from any bigger threats that might show up, like any more aliens. Because Sonic didn't go on to tell Shadow that, though he probably didn't have the chance to, Sonic trips and Shadow hits him into the tree. What took him so long? It's a shame Tails didn't make his own egg fleet. Then they wouldn't have needed Eggman to protect them from the alien invasion at all. If Tails is supposed to be so smart, like he would be just as capable of making an egg fleet as he is. Shadow says cathartically, "Have you forgotten that he made you suffer? That he's tried to destroy you multiple times? How can you even suggest leniency for him after all that?" And Eggman's gonna go back to being evil in this comic anyways, probably. So why am I expected to not side with Shadow here? He's gonna be proven right. But no, everyone in the story acts like Shadow is wrong, implying that I'm alone here. That's not how good writing works. Even Rouge thought Shadow should be stopped, and she's an anti-hero. That's just not fair. Also, it's jarring that a so-called anti-hero like Shadow is saying destroy you instead of kill you. Sonic comics have said the word kill before, might even said the word suicidal before. Sonic says that Shadow tried to destroy the world as well as him. So he says that by Shadow's logic, Sonic should kill him too. Because why should he forgive him either? Because Shadow's worked with Gun longer than a couple of days. Also, Shadow has Chaos Control, so realistically Sonic would only have a chance of killing him in his sleep. Shadow asks Sonic what his plan for Eggman is, and is told that he wants to let Eggman keep helping in the village. Sonic says that he wants to nail down what Eggman thinks is Eggman Land though. Shadow says that Sonic distracted him and lured him away. That should have been obvious from the start, Shadow. Why else would he have raced you? Why did Shadow stop fighting Sonic if he actually didn't change his mind? Why wasn't Shadow drawn punching Sonic after he slammed him into that house? Like, logically that's what would have happened. Was I supposed to believe he just stood there glaring at him for no reason, and then Sonic ran away from him? I'd imagine Shadow to be quicker to react than that. He runs back to town, and somehow Vector tells the Chaotix that speed can't do good against a solid wall. Why do they think that? Obviously, Shadow would either spin dash through them or knock them all over and kill them. Speed does do good if he's speedy enough. Vector's 2 for 2 on being an idiot in this comic. How is he a bro exactly? Because so far this is a downgrade from the smart reboot Vector, which I got used to. And if Sonic's so fast, he should have been right behind Shadow the entire time. Shadow then warps away out of complete nowhere when he's running towards them before. So why was he running towards them? He gets to Rouge, who's in front of a hiding Eggman. How do you know exactly where to warp to? It would have actually made more sense if he did just run here. He should have had to check every building. This is obvious. If he could have just warped here, why didn't he warp here from when he was standing in front of Sonic? Rouge the traitor says that Shadow is stubborn. Again, she's not his real friend if all she ever does, literally, is shamelessly not take his side for no reason. You'd think Shadow would have stopped trusting her after the 5th time. Shadow says he already discussed it with Sonic, and Rouge somehow immediately assumes the best and lets Shadow at Eggman, when she already said he was stubborn. And Shadow asked to be shown Eggman Land. Okay, this could have easily backfired on Rouge. Shadow could have easily just lied to Rouge, or been misleading her when he said that he already discussed it with Sonic. He didn't say he agreed with Sonic. Nothing was stopping him from killing Eggman anyways. Him grabbing Eggman and killing him would have been a surprisingly realistic outcome. Very predictably, the Eggman Land is something non-threatening. It's an actual roller coaster thing that looks like the badniks he pretended to be terrified of, proving that he wasn't really afraid of them and he was just acting. But no, they're not going to point that out. So what was with that cover if it wasn't going to lead to that? The artist doesn't know what he's doing. It seems like a rating stunt. Rouge tells the Chaotix that they will get paid after all. Good. I shouldn't have to compliment this, but good. At least it was that merciful. But we didn't need to see Espio saying that they're poor again, which never made sense because they have special powers, so they get tons of business compared to other detectives. Sonic at least wonders if the Eggman Land thing is a sign his memories will come back, and shakes his hand anyways. And the story ends with someone that looks like Eggman wanting to join the Egg Fleet. He called it the Egg Fleet, like in Sonic Heroes. And in that game, the guy who looked like Eggman was actually Metal Sonic in disguise. So this is Metal Sonic. You wouldn't get that right away if you weren't familiar with Sonic Heroes. In fact, you could conclude that Mr. Tinker wasn't Eggman instead. So what was that about the comic being like the games to be easy for newcomers to get into? But even if you didn't know the plot of Sonic Heroes, it might be possible to assume that it's a robot instead, because Eggman apparently didn't have access to his old clothes anymore. And we're given no indication about how he could go all the way to Orbot and reunite with him to join the Egg Fleet whenever he wants. Also, Archie already did the concept of a robot that looks like modern Eggman. It was Robo-Robotnik when he left the satellite. If you read SSD Online but didn't play Heroes, you'd still wonder if this was a shapeshifter. Also, Sonic Boom had a character called Morpho who can morph. So you could still potentially not be misled here, because the Sonic series has done shapeshifting tons of times. This has been done multiple times, before and after Sonic Heroes. So by this point, it's even less creative. This isn't a brilliant new twist, and there's no actual reason whatsoever to completely rip off the plot of Sonic Heroes long after its release. Way to make the comic even more boring than Sonic fights robots for towns, because now we won't even have it pretending to have original plots. Now we've got an arc you could probably skip and miss nothing, so reading it would be pointless. Also, this twist has the same confusion that Sonic Heroes caused me. It happened because Eggman didn't think things through at all. Metal Sonic had the ability to shapeshift into whatever he wanted, including Eggman for some reason, and was able to do something he'd know Eggman wouldn't approve of. You'd think every robot would have a general instruction programmed to reboot and lose their memory if they consider betraying him in any way. I don't buy that Metal Sonic could end up getting free will on his own, or that he'd be given it on purpose. Eggman had no reason to make him any smarter than a badnik if his only purpose was to kill. And it was obvious all along that he should have made him unable to shapeshift into him. But maybe he could get around that because the way he'd prevent that is that he could still look like Eggman but with a difference. And then he could hide that difference. But again, why would he have free will? If programmers can't create free willed AI yet in real life, how would it happen by accident? This plot is stupid. Eggman's supposed to be a genius, and even failing that, it'd be more work to make Metal Sonic have free will for nothing. I can kind of understand Orbot and Cubot having independent thought because they're not threats. And Eggman needs friends to talk to stave off the loneliness. And what kind of friends don't have free will? But he already has robots with free will there, so why give it to Metal Sonic then if he has no reason to? This story, by Ian Flynn, was predictably about Shadow somehow not killing Eggman in a second with either his super speed or ability to teleport. It was even a dumber plot than I expected because he didn't even spend the whole time punching Sonic. When the only reason he'd logically not free Sonic in time with Chaos Control is that he'd want him to be aware of the pain he'd inflict on him for opposing him. Sonic did have a convincing argument. I wish Shadow explained, even if in a thought bubble, that he's only not freezing Sonic in time so he could be aware of being hit, but somehow they spent most of their time running ahead, racing for no reason. Shadow should have known he was being lured away from Eggman instantly. If he in fact didn't want to punch Sonic a bunch, why didn't he freeze him in time and warp away from his grip and then kill Eggman with a spin dash? Sure, that'd be too dark, but that's the only way the story would make sense after someone as powerful as Shadow decided to try to kill someone. That kind of story has never worked for that reason alone. The issue was advertised as Sonic vs. Shadow, but they barely hit each other. It was more like Sonic races Shadow. So somehow it didn't even do that right. Somehow! It was going to be disappointing regardless. So if it wasn't even going to have them fight, and there was clearly no point in showing them race, we didn't even know their ultimate destination and see one of them cross a finish line, then what was the point of the story being how it was? To try to convince the audience of Sonic's view using Shadow as a straw man? Because it was always obvious Eggman being like this would only be temporary. Flynn would have to think we're idiots to think we not know that. Even the title gives it away. Shadow's right. No town handymanship could make up for what he's gonna do as a villain later. And he should have pointed out that they don't know how long Eggman's gonna keep this up. You'd think the grim anti-hero would have been the one to suggest putting a bomb or paralyzer chip in Eggman just in case he went rogue. Tails could make that, or better yet, couldn't Gunn make that without needing any convincing? Instead of having this plot, Shadow could have easily been talked out of it by being told that this was Eggman from a parallel universe who's good, or a twin. And Sonic could remind him that the Soul Dimension exists. And so this is plausible. So he could be lied to and then drop it, and then the plot could be about something else afterwards. Like the next issue's story. This didn't need to be the entire plot. He could still have this discussion with Shadow, even with Shadow thinking this is an Eggman, because he could start calling Shadow out and wanting to kill Eggman at all, period. He has to be opposed to that even when he's evil, or else he would have killed him himself a long time ago. Bottom line, you're better off skipping the story entirely because it's a ridiculous, predictable waste of time. Shadow would have warped away everyone who would oppose him and run Eggman to lethally punch him, not giving anyone a chance. He should lose his chaos control. It just breaks any plot he's in, once you figure out how useful it would have been. Shadow warped without an emerald in his hand right after he first met Eggman, so that's not an excuse, he can use it whenever.